when are you doing the poll? When are you doing the poll?
Good morning. You guys, I just want you to know that thanks to you, I've totally won my bet with Eric. I said at least 100, he said 40. So good job, right? Way to go, okay? So it's good to see you. Sorry that the weather's, it's better than burning hot or freezing cold as we were discussing. So it could be worse, right? So today we have our fourth presentation by one of your graduate students. We have Albert Zaraziz. He has been with me, I think, for 2 years now. Second semester. Well, that's right, second semester. So starting last spring and then this fall. And he's going to talk to you today about interest groups. Both he and Dennis put it together. And he is going to be the lecturer for you today. So let's have a welcoming round of applause for Albert. Oh, I forgot. There's something I'm supposed to show you. Okay, so I'm going to switch over really quickly. I need to remind you about voting. Okay, so if you go to, how many of you are registered to vote in Oklahoma? Raise your hand. Okay, for those of you who are registered to vote in Oklahoma, if you want an absentee ballot, if let's say you're registered to vote in Weatherford, okay, and you think it's going to be difficult to get home, then you need an absentee ballot, okay? And what you need to do is you need to go to OK Voters, okay, voting portal, OK Voter Portal .org, okay? And when you go to okvoterportal.org, you can enter your name, you can enter your date of birth, and it will take you to your information. It'll say, yeah, you're registered. This is where you're supposed to vote. And if it says something like Weatherford, you might say, I think it's going to be tough to make it. I need an absentee ballot. And you can just request absentee ballot. This is one of the few things that you can do online, but you can print it off. And then if you need a note, you don't even need a notary. You'll need a notary when you send it back in, and we'll talk about that next week, okay? But you can just fill it out and they will send it to you. You don't even have to print it off, okay? So, okvoterportal.org. How many of you just went there? Anybody? Good. Pretty easy to do? All right. So all you have to do, first name, last name, date of birth, it'll take you to where you're supposed to be. Underneath, there's a number of options. One is request absentee ballot. Today is the last day you can do that. All right, that's it. Now for Alfred.
Hello, everybody. First of all, you can hear me, right? So my name is Alpera. I'm a TA for other class for section 18 and 20. But there, Dennis and I will have a college about interest groups. And so today we're going to talk about interest groups. So I'm going to start with the outline of today. I'll start with the definition and the types and activities of interest groups. Then I will move on to Dennis will move on to theories of interest groups and what makes them powerful and the concerns about the present system. We will learn about all of this, but I would like to start with a short video that provides as a general framework.
This special interest group.
All these interest groups.
Interest group, Mike?
It has largely been driven by special interest groups.
What exactly is an interest group? And why do they get people all riled up? To figure this out, let's play which of these is an interest group? Dog owners, kindergartners, car dealers, or NBA players? The answer? They all could be interest groups. People who care about the same things come together to form an interest group. In order to advance their goals, interest groups can seek to influence the government for funding or favorable laws. For example, kindergartners want more recess, car dealers want to close the deal, and NBA players, they just want to jam. There are a lot of ways that interest groups try to influence the government. Some hire lobbyists to make their case for them. Some take to the streets to hold rallies or start petitions. Some groups let money do the talking and donate to politicians. And some take to the airwaves and social media to get noticed. But why are interest groups controversial? Groups work to promote the interests of their members, and this can be working against the interests of others. The difference between interest group and special interest is a matter of perspective. For instance, who could be against a playground? How about a retiree who doesn't have kids or grandkids? He doesn't want to pay more taxes for a playground he'll never use.
We all want the government to be on our side. But sometimes it's hard to accommodate the interests of every group.
Okay, so we can talk about what is interest group, who can be an interest group, and what is the conflict between interest group, and that we are going to talk about today. So what is interest group, guys? Yeah, interest groups is a group of citizens who share common interests and try to influence public policy to benefit themselves. Right? As we just said, everyone can be an interest, everyone can create an interest. It just depends on the topic, what your interest, right? So let's assume we are living in the state of OU, okay? And Dr. Roberts and as we as a TA are policymakers. And you guys will be, you guys are the citizens of the state of the OU, right? And so let's say we are making our grading policy. That's completely related to that, right? And as a group of citizens, you try to influence our grading policy to benefit yourself. Okay? Actually, it's that easy. There's a policy and there's a group try to influence that policy to benefit themselves. It's that easy in that sense. Of course, more complicated later, but that is the basis. Okay. So now we will move on to the constitutional foundation of interest groups.
First Amendment.
The constitutional foundation of interest groups. There are three purpose of that. Is the First Amendment. So the First Amendment states that Congress cannot prohibit the right of the people peaceably assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. And this right to assemble is the right of association. So basically, the First Amendment provides us the right to form an interest group or to become a member, right? As a citizen, you have right to voice your grievances, and you can do so through the interest group. And second one is right to petition, right? What does right to petition mean? It's right to ask to government for assistance with a problem or to express opposition to government policy or as protected by First Amendment. Okay. As part of the right of the petition, individuals may petition the government to request a compensation, and they also request a policy change or object and such a public policy, right? And this right of petition was the earliest and the most basic area of citizens for the seeking to make a government respond to that. And it has been used from the beginning of the government under the Constitution. I don't think it's so common, at least in my country. I'm from Turkey, by the way. It was the earliest basic gateway. You have the right to write a petition, but we're not going to use so common, I think. Maybe it's not safe, but I'm not sure. Okay, so framers were and the Federalists stand. We we say fractions are inevitable. Why fractions are inevitable, guys? I'm trying to do a shot. Why fractions are inevitable? Okay, thank you. So,
She totally knows the answer.
yeah.
Yes.
I would say because people have beliefs and especially mine, very polarizing. And so, especially with like the two-party system, we can see that like we have to fit into one of these groups. And so I think that's part of it. And then also, I think just the way that society has progressed as well. There's always going to be more and more things for people to care about. And so the more people hear about these things, the more these different groups that advocate for these things.
Yes, that's completely correct. That's a good point. Thank you. So, the founders of republics were worried about groups with common interests, which they call factions. And James Madison played a critical role in drafting and enacting the Constitution, and many of its provisions are aimed at the legitimacy of factions. Okay, so Madison saw factions as inevitable due to the nature of people. Like she said, we have different opinions, we have different amounts of wealth, we have different amount of property. So we will continue to form alliance with the people who are most similar to us, right? And these are the factions. So the factions and interest groups are the same thing. Is there any idea? Yes.
I would say that factions is specifically like organizations within the government, whereas interest groups are groups outside of the government that want to have.
That may be. She said factions are the people in government, right? And interest group will be an. Yeah. And what was the interest group? Group of citizens try to influence public policy for benefit themselves, right? So, the politician and media, what? I have to politicians and media use this special interest or interest group. And what makes interest group a special one? Actually, the answer is highly subjective. And one person's special interest could be another's personal public interest, right? So, for this reason, we use the neutral term interest groups because any interest group speaks for some of us, but not all of us. So, in democracy, we have lots of interest and organized interest groups. So, okay, anyway, they all see, right? So types of interest group. We'll talk about types of interest group. You already saw some of them. So is there anyone to share what are the types of interest group? Okay. Economic interest groups is a form of advanced economic status of their members, right? Such as unions, right? They are trying to advance their economic status of their members. So professional groups. What is the professional groups? They basically have groups of people sharing the same job, like the lawyers. The American Bar Association, for example, for the lawyers, and American Medical Association for the doctors, right? And the public interest. So, public interest groups are typically formed to draw attention to public issues that affect all citizens equally, like the environmental issues, or transparency in governments, or corruption, ethics reform, something like that. Okay, and single issue, ideological group, yeah, ideological interest groups, also from among citizens with the same risk about specific issues. We describe this group as an ideological rather than the economic because they are not motivated with the economic things. Okay, single issue groups, it's really obvious, I think. Right, single issue groups form to present one view about a highly salient issue that is intensely important for its members. And the foreign policy, the last one is related with the, some interest group address the cross-border problems. For example, we have a Russia-Ukraine war now, right? Some interest group try to provide a better help to Ukrainian people. This kind of interest groups called foreign policy and international. So, what interest groups do? Interest groups perform a number of functions to collect information about the policy process and convey that information to lawmakers and other policymakers. Their lobbying efforts aim to construct the policies in ways that will most benefit their members. Right? So interest groups inform. Right? All interest groups provide information about the issues they care about their members, the media, government officials, and the general public. So interest groups also hold campaign activities. Peaceful protests are frequently an effective way of voicing options, right? And interest groups commonly use this campaign activities to increase their voices on some specific issue. And lobbying, lobby, I think is the most important one. We are not talking about in detail about lobbying. Lobby is almost every kind of interest groups with every kind of economic or political opinion engage in one form of lobbying or another. Right? So who are the lobbyists? Lobbyists is a representative of interest groups who meet with the members of Congress to pursue them of their position on issues like the policy experts or lawyers. And interests, not interesting, but most of these were active in a political arena before lobbying. That's we can talk about it later. So most lobbyists were active as representatives of senators or electoral staff. So yeah, types of lobbying. There are basically two types of lobbying. These are direct and grassroots. But there is also in-house lobbying and a contract lobbying under the direct lobbying. So direct lobbying is the efforts of professional lobbyists to influence the policy process in Washington, D.C. And in-house lobbying is lobbyists that works for a specific company while to construct or consultant lobbying an individual paying to lobby on behalf of a client and can be a lobby for one on behalf of multiple clients. So grassroots lobbying is the activity of interest group members rather than the professionals. Right? That's the main differences between direct and grassroots. One of them is working with the professionals, grassroots versus activity of interest groups members rather than professional lobbyists in writing, calling, or visiting public officials. So I will give you a short examples of both grassroots lobbying and the direct lobbying. For the direct lobbying, examples of direct lobbying include to meeting with legislators or their staff to discuss specific legislation, or drafting or negotiating the terms of bill. Okay, and examples of grassroots lobbying includes an action alert urging the citizens to contact their legislators about the pending. Okay, so lobbying tactics. Lobbying tactics, they are spending money, as you can see, right? And they're writing a letter, and they are lobbying here, right? And they participate actively in the process.
One is, we were talking about this one, and it's also building trust. This idea that they build trust
Yeah.
with, yeah.
The
so
third
that's
one,
fine.
yeah, it's about building trust. They couldn't do that, but they're trying to build the trust. Yeah. So lobbyists are good or bad?
Citizens is bad.
You have an idea. Lobbyists are good or bad?
I have an opinion.
I always have an opinion, mostly because I've done this. Lobbying's okay, like a bill I got passed by the governor here in Oklahoma was doing the tax stuff with the Oklahoma museums. Most people never know anything about
Yeah.
taxes on museum and stuff, but it's really good. Then Dr. Rowlett and I are part of a special interest group, and she'll tell you more, and I'll bring a show and tell in on Wednesday.
We're both members of the Pacific Whale Foundation because we like whales, right? So a question for you guys might be interest groups that you're involved in, but I would say lobbyists are not necessarily all good, Eric. They're also, they can be very bad, right? In what ways might interest groups be bad?
Well, some interest groups get come with big corporations who are able to have control, and they're very selfish and have the corporations make more laws to benefit them.
Anybody else? Oh, right here, right. The next contestant.
They could act on self-interest instead of the general public that they're trying to present.
Right back here. Yeah, the Pacific Whale Foundation is pretty cool. Against whaling.
If you have a company or an organization that is directly funding large campaigns that then also have a lot of lobbyists, then they have politicians who have a vested interest in seeing their ideas and stuff built rather than people's.
So lobbyists are good, as we said, because inform legislators and provide multiple viewpoints and increase representation. And they may be bad because of hyperpluralism, which Dennis talked about it, and one-track mind and money over the system. And this was my last slide, and Dennis will take over the rest of them. Thank you, guys.
Okay, well, Dennis is changing. I'm going to take attendance, all right? But I misunderstood. I thought they were each doing one part, but they're doing it together. So this is Dennis, this is his second semester with me also. And so it is great to have Dennis Charut. Dennis, can you say your last name? Chariot, okay, Dennis Chariot. And so that's my Oklahoma always just getting rid of syllables in the middle. I apologize for that. But I'm going to open up attendance right now. Dennis?
Thank you, Dr. Rowlett. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, so just as Albert has talked about the types of interest groups, you talked about the tactics, and you talked about whether lobbies are good or bad. That contribution will help us move on to the next level. But before we do that, I want to talk about the theories that underlie
the formations of these interest groups. So there are various theories that actually, just like any other group formation, that underlies how these groups are made. So there are three that I'm going to focus on this class. And the first one is the pluralist theory. And the pluralists say actually that politics is just mainly about competition, and that these interest groups are good. They're good in the sense that they're bringing various ideas and they're selling these ideas to the people, and they are influencing the various people who make policy to go in their direction. So if they are going in that direction, then they can elect to continue, or they can elect to pass their preferred choices and let the best team win. For example, if you are pro-choice or if you are pro-life. So we let every of these competing interests compete in the service of, in the interest of the people, and whoever actually comes up with the best decision or choices will actually prevail. So pluralists will say, let these interests prevail and they're good for the society. On the other hand, the elite actually oppose this, and they say that no matter how good these are, it will always get, societies are always divided along social lines, what we call class lines. In the essence that the upper class will always have a say, because upper class always have a say because they have the money, they have the power, they have what it takes to be able to influence policy. So elite will always say that no matter how these good policies are, the society will always suffer because the elite will always take over and actually influence the policy in that direction. Then the hyper-pluralist is actually an elongation of a pluralist theory, and it talks about that because of this large number of different groups, that each of the different people have different interests, the government actually will actually not be able to function properly because every other group has different groups. An example that Dr. Rowlett likes using is that if you want to build a bridge, for example, that somebody else will be a contractor in that group. Somebody else will be concerned about where that bridge is going to be built. Somebody else will have a different thing. And because of all these competing interests, the government is hampered because they cannot be able to know which of these interest groups will actually be satisfied. So in that sense, the hyper-pluralists will actually have a problem. Then we move on to talk about what makes up these interest groups, or what makes these interest groups so powerful. One is about the size. That the bigger the size of an interest group, then it means they are able to have more members, and more members mean they are able to potentially mobilize resources in terms of money. They're able to mobilize resources in terms of time, and actually most time the elected official, even the White House or the executive, will pay attention because of the sheer number of the numbers that they have. For example, the US number of voters, because of the numbers that they have across the country, they form a larger, or they form one of the largest interest group in the country because they have the biggest number of people. NRA, for example, they're powerful because of also the sheer number of size. Then also on the issue of unity of members, that the more united the members of these groups are, the more they will be able to form a powerful interest group. For example, the Association of Retired Persons, the ARP, recently were enacting, they were opposed to some of the social security reforms that they wanted, the government wanted to put in place. Because of the unity that they had, they were able to stop the government because of the unity on ideas that they had. Then lastly, of course, is the issue of money. The powerful a group in terms of the resources that they have can actually influence the direction that interest group will have in influencing the policy. For example, it influences public policy because they give money, and they give money to these politicians during their campaigns. They can either give them directly to the individuals, they can either give it to the political parties, or they can give it to the interest group to actually lobby for the idea that they want to lobby within the Congress or within any other places of policy making, like bureaucracy. And then they also can give it to the members of their group, such as employees. So I'm gonna run a quick video just to tell us about how the influence of money actually, and this is where we transition on to talk about the democracy and this, the place of democracy in these interest groups, how this interest group actually influences the democracy. So I'm gonna run this video very quick.
Intersection of money and politics.
A lot of people complain about all the money in politics.
outside money.
big money donors.
What does this mean?
I think what we're really seeing is a fundamental inquiring of how the money is being raised at a national level.
Running a political campaign isn't easy or cheap, and it's gotten more expensive over time. To be competitive, candidates and their campaigns must get their message in front of voters. And that can mean sending mailers, buying signs, and running print, television, and digital ads. And all those expenses add up. So, how do campaigns pay for all those things? Political contributions. Here's how that works. For candidates at the federal level, individuals can donate up to $2,700 per candidate per election. Individual donations can help fill a campaign's coffers no matter how small the donation. But spending on political causes doesn't stop the campaigns. Other groups can reach out to voters to help try and sway their votes. One kind of group, called political action committees, or PAC, can contribute up to $5,000 to candidates each year. PACs make contributions on behalf of others. PACs have been around for a long time, since the 1940s. Since Citizens United, new groups called super PACs have sprung up. Super PACs can be started by corporations, unions, and other groups. Unlike PACs, however, super PACs cannot contribute directly to a campaign. So, what makes them so super? Well, their spending on advocacy for candidates or issues isn't capped, and neither is how much money they can raise. Campaigns, PACs, and super PACs must disclose their donors to the Federal Election Commission. The FEC polices the system, and if you want to know who's donating to a candidate or a cause, you can check out FEC filings online. But not all contributors to political speech or causes are public. You've probably heard the phrase dark money recently. Dark money refers to political spending that comes from organizations that don't have to disclose their donors. Those groups are nonprofits that, similar to super PACs, can raise unlimited amounts of money. Dark money groups have come under a lot of scrutiny. Critics of dark money say that donors should be identified because voters deserve to know who's behind the messages. Supporters of the groups say the anonymous nature of the donors helps protect donors, I mean individuals, corporations, or other groups, from retaliation by those who may disagree with their political views. During the 2016 election cycle, more than $6.5 billion was spent on presidential and congressional elections combined, and many Americans are concerned with the influx of money in politics. A Pew Research poll in May found that 77% of Americans support limits on political spending. Only 20% of Americans say groups should be able to spend unlimited amounts. Opponents of political spending say that more money equals more speech, which helps educate the public on issues and candidates. Advocates against unlimited money in politics say the money can compromise the integrity of candidates in elections and could lead to preferential treatment for large donors over ordinary citizens. No matter which side of this argument you're on, you won't be insulated from the bombardment of political speech hitting the airwaves this election cycle.
I have super PAC, whole bear super PAC. Yeah. As far as I can tell, the difference between a PAC and a super PAC is a cover letter. Because I formed a PAC, but a PAC only takes so much money and only spends so much money. And I wanted to spend unlimited amounts of money and receive, more importantly, unlimited amounts of money.
All right, so I don't want to talk about the PACs and super PACs again, but I just want to ask, to open the floor and ask, what's your opinion about money in politics? What's your opinion about money in politics? Yes, so we'll go, then we go to Abital, and then we come to Aaron Lama, something to say. Let's open the floor for a minute. Yes.
So just for like an analogy, I'm a biology major and I want to be a doctor. So something I've learned a lot about is like clinical ethics and things like pharmaceutical companies actually giving financial gifts and other types of gifts to physicians. And now since the Affordable Care Act, you can actually look up your doctor and see what donations they've been given by pharmaceutical companies and how that might influence, for example, like things that they prescribe you. And so something that we kind of talked about was psychologically, for people, if you are given something, you're more likely to feel like you owe them something back. And so like for PACs, for example, when people are elected and they've been funded by these things, like the NRA, for example, they might have some sort of obligation to let that influence like the decisions that they make in policy. And so like personally, that's concerning to me because I think that could potentially override what their constituents actually want. And in some cases, what needs to be done. And so, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, I can take all right, Aaron has something to say, and then Abigail.
Money is one of the things that runs the entire world, and so when you start getting into politics and looking at donations to political campaigns and that kind of thing, you start to see who is actually in control of politics. And so whoever is funding everything gets to make the rules.
Anyone else? Abigail?
I think it's good. I like mine.
Making me nervous, I need to raise my hand. Whenever you think about finances, motivating the people's wants and needs in society, I don't necessarily want somebody's dollar to overvalue my opinion and things, but I understand how garbage money is can contribute to someone's power in that system, if that makes sense.
All right.
Remember, money talks.
Money talks, yeah. Whoever has the money has a big say. So I'll go back, but I'll just raise some few concerns that I have about this precious system. I actually have three concerns before we end our discussion today. One is about the elite bias. Just as Abigail and Aaron and the rest of us talked about, is that with these interest groups and with the issue of money, there's what we of course call it elite bias. One of our writers called Snape talked about in the tourist heaven, the choir sings with the upper class accent. That means that whoever has a say, whoever gives the money will actually have a bigger say. And many times that these interest groups, because of their money, they will be tilted towards, the policy will be tilted towards the business or the professional, just as Albert has talked about, because they're easy to organize, they have the resources, they have the time to actually lobby for this. The other concern about this is the issue of the free rider problem, in the sense that there are many citizens who actually do nothing about it because they know there are people actually who will, people called interest groups who have organized themselves in Washington, D.C. will do something about. So they just want to free ride and actually take advantage of getting policies done without them doing nothing. And that's a big concern to democracy in this country and actually in the world at large. The other concern is about the pressure in the pressure system is that this elite or the economic system actually organize themselves in such a way that it will influence policy. And the way they will actually prefer is that they will give preference to the economic elites. As you can see from this graph, that was done in 2014, and the theory was trying to test how American politics actually have perspective on these issues of preferences. You can see the average citizen preference is actually, the graph is just straight line. It's not actually moving up and down, it's not increasing. As opposed to the way they will give preference or what you call the predictability or the probability of adopting a policy based on whether they are actually average citizens or whether they are these economic elites. And you can see the graph is actually going up in terms of predictability on whether they will influence policy towards their direction. So this concern is actually is evident. If you want to read more, you'll actually find that business actually spend over 5 times more on lobbying compared to just campaign donation on what individuals will actually give. And as you add from the video, that you can give up to about 2,000. I think they increased last year, this year to 2,900. And corporations can actually give up to 5,000. But businesses and corporations will give a campaign donation 5 times more, and that's a big concern. The second concern that I have is that the broader public interest is sacrificed, or what we call the democracy. And what happens with democracies, as I talked about at the beginning with hyper pluralism, is that the concerns are so many. You don't know which interest you want to cater for. Everybody has their own, every faction has their own interest, and actually demobilizes the government from actually being effective. So it's easier to block than to enact, and in most cases, this policy becomes dense and complex to buy off in terms of the group demands. So just as we talked about in hyper, the democracies actually bring that concern to the public, where the government will not know which concern to take care of, because there's so many competing interests, and these competing interests will actually mobilize the government for function. Then the other one that I love most is about submerged state. Submerged state is a condition whereby many of us or many citizens will not actually know what policies the government offers, or they have what we call the hidden policies. People are not aware. And I want to ask this group, how many of us, in one way or another, are actually taking advantage of government programs or social programs? Yeah, let me see one. Let's see from this class. How many of us are aware? Yeah. As you can see from this class that about a third or less than a third of us actually are aware. I'm sure if we were to explain to you and list all the next graph, you will find that in one way or another, you're taking advantage of these programs. There's so many programs, there are hidden policies that the government offers until you don't even know that they are actually offered by the government. So they are called submerged state, or they're hidden policies, and the citizens do not actually understand. For example, social security, unemployment insurance. There are so many student loans. Some of us, I'm sure majority of us have actually taken a student loan. But this study was done, and it shows that the percentage of beneficiaries believe that they have not used a government programs. You can see like 529 for over there, 64%, which may not be true. Home mortgage, about 60%, student loan, about 53%, are not aware that these programs actually, they're taking advantage of it in one way or another. So if you're interested to read more of this, you can read on the book for, there's a professor, Susan Matla, has done a very nice book on a submerged state. I would ask you to read in your own interest time. So I'll take us to an opinion poll. Of the concerns that were talked about, the 4 concerns, and I'll ask you to open the poll. What is your concern? Let's do the poll in a minute. Hold on. Yeah. Tell us, Eric, when you
spin wheel.
What's your concern? Is it the lead bias? That's number 1. Is it the large influence of business interest? Number 2. Or is it inability to govern due to large number of influences? Number 3. Or that what we talked about in the issue of submerged state, that people don't know that they receive these government benefits.
I have to see that.
I got it.
All right, Eric, is it ready?
It's coming up slowly. It's a rainy day. It's moving a little slow.
So, when you're ready, let us know. But we will move on and talk about the other concern. Ready?
No, I didn't do anything either.
Okay, we'll give you time. I will move on to the interest time because it was my 35 minutes. The other concern is about the revolving door. The revolving door is that the practice of the government official going back to these lobbying positions, as Albert has talked about, has become a big concern. As you can see from that graph, there are a lot of positions actually are becoming lobbyists. Immediately they finish their term, or even before they finish their term, they resign and go into lobbying. There is an ethical law that requires that at least within an average of 6 to 2 years, that you cannot actually get from being a government official and go directly into lobbying. And that is what we call the revolving door. Or there's a period or a cooling period of at least 6 to 2 years period where you're prohibited not to get into this. So guys, as we finish, where do we draw the line? Where do we say enough is enough of the concerns that we talked about? And I wanted just us to have a general discussion, but there's no time for this. I just wanted to raise the issue of
Poll is live.
yeah. This slide. The issue of lobbying and bribery.
I have 4 polls open.
It's open?
I got 3 of them.
All right. So where do we draw the line? Is it that lobbying and bribery is almost the same thing, and that is just a matter of semantics? I would say that bribery is an act of giving or taking in order to receive something, or in order to do something for a favor for something, which is totally illegal in this country. But lobbying
is the act of influencing policy. To make a policy go against, and which is totally different in this country. So you can tell it for yourself that the line is so very thin, and as a citizens, we have to be concerned about this, by the way, that this does not influence the way our democracy runs in this country. And as we conclude, I want to talk about what Alvin actually talked about. He talked about Madison raising the issue of factions, that factions are inevitable, and with the rise of these factions, the idea that came at the beginning was that these factions would be moderated by checks and balances that are put in place, and therefore that interest groups, yes, can restore the democratic process, but it doesn't have to move towards a direction that these interest groups are too important or they're useful for our society to dismiss of the issue of the myth of corruptive influence. So, and that's my take, and that's my
That's it